Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last 7 days, I've been driving the 2025 Genesis GV60 Performance. Below me are 2 electric motors powering this all-electric vehicle. Now, I am super excited to be making this video because I've spent the last week driving the Genesis GV60, and this is my first Genesis electric product of which I've reviewed. Now, I've driven the Kia and Hyundai equivalents in the Ioniq 5N and the Kia EV6. However, the Genesis adds just a little bit more on top, and so that's what we're going to be talking about here today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's get back to that all-electric drivetrain. Well, this being the performance model, it puts out a whopping 429 horsepower usually. What I mean by usually is that there is a little button on the steering wheel that says boost, and for a short time, it will up it to 483 horsepower. This is a really fun button, and the engineers told me if you really want to experience how cool it is, it basically just remaps the throttle. Have your foot set at a certain point, hit the boost button, and you'll start accelerating without moving your foot at all. It's a very cool system, but this is a fast car. It can get away from you. If your steering wheel is turned and you hit the gas, you will screech the tires. It is quick. This is basically an Ioniq 5N in a tuxedo. Now, the Ioniq 5N actually makes a little bit more power, and we'll talk about some comparisons between that a little bit later on. But that is the fun, exhilarating drive that you get out of the GV60 Performance. And because it is dual motor, it is all-wheel drive. So how does it feel to drive the GV60 Performance? Well, like I said, it is very fast. However, the ride quality is nice. The cabin is relatively quiet. I'm actually doing 60 miles an hour right now, and you can still hear my voice. I don't have to scream at the top of my lungs. Everything is nice and quiet and smooth. Visibility is decent. I wouldn't say it's the best. You kind of have thick A-pillars, and the rear isn't the most helpful, especially with the bar that goes across the rear window. But overall, it's been a very pleasant drive, and we'll talk about the features because I think those really help out. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a digital dashboard. I like this. It's pretty clean and simple. It's relatively easy to see and read. And off to the left, we do have that power and charge gauge, which is really fun. And when you hit the boost, it makes this special sort of animation, which just makes me feel cool. On the steering wheel, on the left, we do have our adaptive cruise and lane keep assist. And off to the right, we have our favorite voice commands, skip track, volume, and more phone options. And at the bottom, we have our drive mode and boost. So along with that boost mode, we do have 3 drive modes for Eco, Normal, and Sport, which again just remaps the throttle and opens up more power. The overall steering wheel is nice, however, it is white as the rest of the interior is. This looks fantastic here on camera. These shots are beautiful. However, I'd have to imagine after 50, 60, 70,000 miles, this would probably get pretty disgusting. Off to the left, we do have a climate control vent. We have our tailgate release, power parking brake, gauge dimmer switch, and traction control off. And moving on to the door, we do have the power mirror switch, which is really fun to play with. It feels like an old arcade game because you kind of grip it and use your thumb to move it all around. I found myself playing with it and then realized my mirrors were completely out of whack, so don't let it get away from you, but very cool. We do have 2 memory seat options, lock and unlock, and power windows. We also get this nice Alcantara style material on the door, which is a nice touch. Moving into the center, we do have our infotainment. We have wireless Apple CarPlay here in the GV60, and we do have our EV page. This is also found in the Ioniq 5 and the EV6. So I like to see all of that, and it does have a 360 camera. I don't find the 360 camera super helpful, especially this like outside view. I don't really know what it's trying to achieve here, but it's something that we have. Down below, we have 2 climate control vents, and then the climate controls themselves. I like this mix of screen and button because on the screen, you can touch some of the things, but you also have physical buttons where you want it, like the dual zone temperature are physical buttons, off and auto are physical buttons, defrost are physical buttons, but all the other fluffy stuff, that's all ran through the screen, which I find to be okay. Then we do have our radio buttons down below, nothing too interesting there. And then way down below, we do have an openable cubby, 2 USB-Cs, as well as a 12-volt outlet and a storage cubby. Moving up to the center console, we have our radio controls off to the left for volume and tune, as well as details back in menu, a little dial for the infotainment if you don't want to use the touchscreen, and then the shifter. This is the crystal ball shifter, and it is very, very cool. When you turn the vehicle on, it flips over. When you turn it off, it flips back over. This looks absolutely wonderful and captures everyone's attention who I've given a ride in the car. However, I do have my hesitations. I feel like this might break at some point, or if you get in the car and turn it on, it does take that half second before you can put it into gear. So if you're really in a rush or in an emergency, it just adds a little bit of time that might be frustrating.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Off to the right, we do have cup holders. It fails the big friggin' bottle test. I was hopeful, but alas, it's a fail. And then we have a nice row of buttons. We have our heated and ventilated seats for the front two occupants, heated steering wheel, auto holding brake, our camera button, and our parking sensors. We do get a small center console for some storage and the seats. Now, the driver's seat does have the Ergo Motion seat from Genesis, which basically means it's a massage seat, but the passenger seat does not get that. That is only for the driver. It is heated, ventilated, power, memory, and massaging, so anything that I would want out of a modern seat, I get here in the GV60. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2025 Genesis GV60 Performance, and a couple of things to note. This is my driving position. I'm 5'11", not a small guy, and I fit back here relatively well. We do also have heated seats on the door. We have our Bang & Olufsen speaker. We have a cup holder in the door, lock and unlock in the doors, power windows. We get this nice sunshade, and we do get a climate vent on the B-pillars, which is very nice to see. Also, the passenger seat can be moved from the back here. I don't know if you can see it coming in and out of frame, maybe the very corner of the frame. You can actually move the seat forward and back from the back. A lot of Genesis products do this. Actually, all of the Genesis products that I can think of do this. We also do get 2 USB-Cs and this nice cargo container right in the center. We also do get a center console with 2 cup holders. So lots to love in the back of the GV60. The biggest thing is that I fit, and I fit comfortably. This size of SUV, this size of crossover, this size of EV can sometimes be hit or miss. And so it's nice to see that this is a hit rather than a miss. But let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, around the back of the Genesis GV60, there's a button way down here in that little hole. And once we are around the back, nothing really too crazy to see here. We do get a pretty nice privacy cover, although it does kind of leave a gap because these seats do recline back here, and you can push it back. But as you could see, we couldn't put it in the furthest back spot because those lean back seats would have hit it. So something to note there. We can pull this up as well. We have a Genesis charger and some other accessories. The heck is this? Oh, wow. Some booklets, warranty information, things like that. It actually comes in a really nice Genesis box. Huh, very cool. Okay, good to know. So that is the rear cargo space. We do also have a 12-volt outlet. Love to see that. And that's how you would get to the back of the charger in case it wasn't opening or things like that. Up here, we do have our lock and tailgate button. One touch all the way back down. It beeps twice, not a million times like the new Lexus LX. We also do technically have a frunk coming around the front end of the car. However, be prepared to be disappointed. That's it. So this shares with the Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. It's the same exact one, although they actually went through the hassle of printing Genesis onto this pad, but it's the same exact box that you would find in the Ioniq 5 and the EV6. So nothing really new there. Now we gotta talk about the looks. This is going to be very polarizing. I love the color. I don't know if I love the design of it per se, but it is an absolutely beautiful sort of Cinderella blue-ish, and it does look different. This looks different than the other Genesis vehicles in their lineup, so I do like that. It's kind of, you know, the black sheep of the family. It's a little bit on the outside, and I think that that could possibly be a good thing. However, with all of this being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the GV60 for the last week? Well, I've really liked some parts and I've disliked others. The thing I dislike most is shared with the Hyundai and Kia products. The range it displays on the screen is not very factual. It is way too optimistic. I drove this up here to Wisconsin, funny enough to drive a Fisker. Shout out to that failure. It said I had about 220 miles when I left the house. I showed up with about 10 miles to go. So in 110 miles, I burned up over 200 miles of range. I had this issue with the Ioniq 6 earlier this year. I had this issue with the Ioniq 5 last year. So the range estimations are not very truthful. However, everything else has been mostly positive. I really like the interior space. I like the light in here. I like the giant sunroof. I like the wireless Apple CarPlay, the ergo motion seat, the ventilated and heated seats, heated steering wheel, nice sound system. It has very, very good options. Yes, it is $71,000, but I do think that you get a relatively $71,000 experience while behind the wheel. And that's my closing thought. It feels like a more traditional car in the best ways possible. It feels styled. It's not overly minimalist like the Tesla products. They're just straight line. This feels like a nice continuous experience throughout the interior. It rides nice. This car is everything that the Model Y wanted to be. This is what people think the Model Y is, but this is actually the king when it comes to this segment. The smaller electric SUV segment, this has to be one of the best. It is such a good product, and it's a product that I don't see all that much on the road. It looks a little weird. Sure, it does. But honestly, this is such a great experience. I have truly, truly loved the Genesis GV60 the entire time that I've had it. And I don't usually feel that way about electric cars. Now, I wish that this got the Ioniq 5N fake sound, the fake shifting sound. I would have liked that in here. But I digress. I could take it or leave it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Genesis for loaning me this vehicle for the last 7 days. Huge thank you to Drive Shop for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwestern Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.